Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us at our Informatica and Databricks Customer 360 Analytics presentation, brought to you by Informatica. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to show you what we're very excited about, the advancements in Customer 360 Analytics. So let's start off with Informatica. Informatica covers a whole number of things when using this within Databricks. Informatica has CLAIRE, covers data governance and privacy over the entire stack, does data integration and quality in between the various levels of Databricks. And in Databricks, we're able to use the Delta Lake for our data storage, our data science and AI, as well as surfacing up our content inside of the various Databricks components. Now today what we're going to talk about is what is in red. The on-premise and cloud SaaS data offerings, the Informatica integration with the cloud data lake, the data governance and privacy, and the cloud data warehouse and data science and AI capabilities of Databricks. So why are we doing all of this work if we just want to get to generative AI? Well, generative AI is very cumbersome right now if you don't have the right amount of data. And so when we look at this display, most of our prep work, most of our time when building out generative AI models includes 55% of that time in data engineering, 35% of that time in training and building models, which includes data cleaning and external augmentation, and only 10% is actually developing the models, the utilization of the models, and analysis using those models as well. So in our demo today, we're going to be talking about a home goods e-commerce company that has around 4,000 customers, and they are looking to create personalized recommendations for our customers, as well as crafting personalized content to encourage brand loyalty. And so what steps do they need to take within this ecosystem? Well, first, they need to move data with Informatica, and then we need to create a golden record for each consumer so we know that we're targeting the right email addresses, the right phone numbers, making sure that we understand the most out of all of our customers so that we can build true AI models and machine learning algorithms to provide the best feedback that we can. And then what we're also going to do in Databricks is we're going to perform segmentation analysis, find our most profitable customers, create a recommendation engine based on past purchase activity, and then we're going to create social media content specialized to each customer. So if we go into our demo, we're going to show you all of this as well. So let's dive in and get started. The first thing that we need to do is take the raw data from our Databricks instance and bring it into Informatica. This will allow us to ingest this data and to make sure that we are using our raw data to then turn into our consumer golden records. So as you can see here, we extract it, we transform it, and then we load this back in to our Informatica instance. And then when we look at our consumer entity here, you can see we have a number of different components, a number of different dimensions, everything from marital status to age to gender and kids at home. This information we're going to need when we're doing our personalization later on. But what we really want is a golden record for each one of our users. Now we'll choose our email address as our primary match target. And when we move to our match tab inside of our MDM solution, you can see that it takes sometimes a number of different iterations to get that golden record and remove those duplicates. Because sometimes you want to do householding, or sometimes you have an email address that is mistyped. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you run this process all the way through, check everything until you get to a single golden record, and then write it back out to Databricks. And we're going to use this information here to go ahead and do our data science work on and our actions as well. So now that we have the data inside of our Databricks instance, we can look at our merged data. This is our clean data or our golden records. And you can see we have a unique customer ID here. And then we have a number of different elements. So the revenue, the amount of items that they have purchased, the average purchase amount, education, marital status, income, and number of deals purchased. And a number of other measures as well as things like age and gender. And so that's a good place for us to start on our segmentation analysis. But what we also want to do is bring in the data that comes in from our transactional data so that we can do analysis on what they actually bought and how many items they bought as well. And so when we look at this, we see different information from our transactional system, the stock code, the description, the invoice number, what was bought of each item, invoice date, the customer ID that made the purchase, where they came from, and what the actual revenue on the item was. So now what we're going to do is take our clean data and we're going to do some very basic analysis on this. We're going to create segmentation and clustering from our data based off of a number of different metrics and dimensions, including things like education level, gender, kids at home, total revenue. And so the first thing is we import our data. And after we import our data, what we want to do is we want to look at the available features for clustering. These are the dimensions within our clean data sources. We're going to go ahead and cluster based off all of this to get to the point where we can do a correlation. Now, a correlation is very simple. The correlation of how dimensions and measures, in this case, are related one-to-one. So the closer they are to 1, as you can see diagonally through it, the closer the items are exactly detailed. Not very good for clustering and not very good for segmentation analysis. So what we want is we want a darker blue color. So by looking at these groupings, we can see that, for example, income and the web visits per month is our highest, but that's a little esoteric right now. What we're going to focus on is kids at home by revenue, kids at home by income, kids at home by number of app purchases. So kids at home look like a really good thing. There's a lot of different segmentation opportunities along the kid at home, as well as some of our more common things like education is pretty consistently non-correlated. And then also if we look at teens at home, it is a little kind of more diverse here. So after we do all this, we're going to pick a couple of these dimensions and we're going to run what's called an elbow analysis. And so essentially what this is trying to get us to do is get us to the point where we can identify where everything is and what the best amount of clusters that are available. So for example, right here, when we start to visualize this data, we can look at kind of the distribution. And this is an iterative process that requires some trial and error to determine what the best metrics are that are clustered, right? So we want something that doesn't have as many outliers as quantity, not as many outliers as quantity and revenue. Our average purchase amount has a lot of outliers. There's a lot of different things that come with average prices amount. But when we look at things like education frequency, it's a pretty even distribution here. And so we're going to choose things like education and marital status and income, and then go ahead. Kids at home gives us a nice little delimitation here. And we're going to run what's called an elbow analysis. And so after we do all of our analysis, what we're going to roll down to is we're going to choose some segments and we're going to ask the elbow method. This is essentially saying where is the crook of the elbow? This is where the inertia evens out along the way. And so this is the best part of where we should segment, which is 2 segments. So we're going to create 2 segments. And as you can see here, while our 2 segments are pretty evenly distributed, our revenue is 5 times in the cluster 0. Now this is where most of our money is going to be made, so we're going to focus on that. And so when we create this cluster, excuse me, what we can then look at is, for the most profitable cluster, where are our biggest populations? And this will allow us to reach out to the people who make us the most money, but will also have the most commonality. So for example, graduate, married, 0 kids at home, but 1 teen. And then there's some other pretty even distributions that really make a lot of sense. And then no distribution here for that. And then you see that our gender split is about even. And so this doesn't really make sense. So what we're going to look at is people who have graduate degrees with a single teen at home. And we're going to use that to kind of do our analysis along the way. And so we can also see how our revenue is distributed as well. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and look at how we would display this information. One of the ways that we could do this is to do a customer 360 analysis. This customer 360 analysis covers all of our data. And as you can see here, we've broken our revenue down by cluster. Cluster 0, our most profitable cluster, is broken down by month, transaction up along the top. Our customers, 325, our total revenue. Also things that are broken down by country of delivery, what our revenue is over time in total, what our average revenue is per month by invoice date. And then really here's the interesting information. So right here we can see that 0, which is female, is our largest revenue cluster. And in our 0 here as well, what you can also see is, for example, that we have a number of graduates that play a large percentage, as well as married, again in cluster 0. And then if we move to our transactions, we can see how this data translates to the transactional data. So for example, our most popular item bought is this white hanging heart tea light holder. And as you can see that in our most profitable customer segment, this is actually the same item. Now, it is not in our least profitable customer segments items that were bought, right? But this is a good way to find what isn't selling or what isn't equating to our most profitable customers, as well as what items we are generally being sold, as well as the items that we are selling to our most important customers, which is our most profitable customer segment. Now, this is very important for our next step, which is to create a recommendation engine for our various users. So now that we've done all of our analysis and distributed the information to our stakeholders, we need to prepare our customer service reps to make recommendations based off of that analysis. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a recommendation engine that encompasses 3 parts. First, we're going to make personalized recommendation based on those users and their purchase history. We're then going to identify the subcluster within the most profitable customer group and get a single item out of that. And then we're going to pick a single item from our top revenue generating products and then generate a list of 5 items that we can recommend to our customers. So after we import our data, set up our customer clusters underneath the most common one, we're going to do our personalized recommendations. So we're going to create an SFD module right here, and we're going to make our predictions based off of our transactional data as it ties into our customer data and make a number of predictions. And then we're going to do our clustering, again, using a simple k-means formula. And then we're going to pull from our top revenue the items there, build that list, and then do our analysis. So for a single customer, customer 12350, we identify what cluster they're in, and then go ahead and move all the way down into our recommendations. And we're going to create 3 different recommendation lists. And what we're going to end up with is our recommended items for that subcluster, for that particular user. And then we're going to do the same thing for our subcluster and for our same thing for our revenue items, all based off of that unique customer's buying history. And then we're going to combine them and we're going to pull 5 items. And so as you can see right here, we have a list of 5 items that we would be able to recommend specifically for that user. So after we've done this through all of our users, we can then present a single dashboard within Databricks directly to our customer service representatives. So for this user, we can see where their education level is, what their marital status is, what their age is, and what their gender is. And then what we can go ahead and do is select individual items, individual users. And as you can see here, we get different recommendations for each one of those users of what they should buy. Now that we have the item recommendations for each individual user, we're going to create some personalized content. The great thing about having an embedded LLM model inside of Databricks, this DBRX instruct model, is that we can create in a single line of code a prompt for our LLM to generate personalized content. So we're going to take 4 items that was recommended for the user that we're talking about. And what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 different things. We're first going to create descriptions that are personalized to that user. We're going to create an email encouraging them to buy the items on this recommendation list. And then we're also going to create Instagram stories for those users as well. So you can see the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to be given a name of a product and why that person should buy the item. And we're going to do it short so that it limits the response to 20 words. And so inside of this, to our descriptions list, we're just going to create a name of the object, which is R, in this case, so R in recommendations, and then the output of the description model. And then for the email, you'll be given a name of a product and a tweet of a product. I would like you to come up with an email that I could send to a woman in her 40s, which is what our personnel is. She has a kid in high school. Limit your responses to 100 words. You should create a narrative where the recipient's life is improved with 3 of these products. And so there's our description here. And then finally, you'll be given a list of names of a product and a tweet about the product. Come up with 3 pitches for Instagram stories for some combination of the products. The target is women who have teens at home. And so when we run this, what we're going to do is we're going to get our 3 different components here. So the first thing that you can see here is the name of a product and a description of the product that I can then use in tweets or as feeding for my customer service reps. Here's an email that I can send out to that user to encourage them to buy items. And then also a number of Instagram videos that might fit if I'm targeting a certain group within our cluster, a couple of the subclusters that we created in the earlier step. So now that we've completed our demo, let's look at what our architecture actually looks like. Our CRM data, as well as our transaction data, goes into Informatica. We use Databricks and Python to do all the data science and AI. All of that is fed into an LLM, which produces emails, descriptions of our items, as well as Instagram stories. And those emails then get fed back into our e-commerce system. Our users come back to our e-commerce store, which cycles and cycles all over, continuously growing value. And so when we're talking about LumenData, what we can do is we can do this entire ecosystem. Everything from Salesforce, Kafka, operational databases, through the lens of Informatica, into our landing zone, our Delta Lake, and eventually our analytic views so that we can go ahead and build out our Gen AI and data science work. We can funnel our data applications, and we can move to advanced and self-service analytics. And all of this is protected by Informatica MDM, the data quality and governance components, the enterprise data catalog, and the data protection, ensuring that our data is the secure and most valuable all the way through. So you might be asking, what are some other things that I can do with this excellent solution that you've put together? So we've already shown you how you can build an email based on past purchases, and how you can use that email through current marketing channels and create a feedback loop to determine if your recommendations are making sense, whether they purchase the items, and then further refining the recommendations. We've also presented a recommendation system that a customer service rep that can use this. However, maybe you include this as a chatbot feature on your website. And all of this continuously furthers into our personalization, creates the algorithm at a much higher level and all the way through. And outside of e-commerce, we can do a whole number of things: market analysis, benchmarking, customer segmentation, and improving product development. All of these items that require segmentation of user feedback, user input, and then putting that back into the hands of our users so that they can understand where the most value is being generated and how to drive that forward.